Welcome to the D-Spot podcast. Dr. Dana McNeil is a licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in working with couples using the Gottman method. Her evidence-based practice provides support for the wide range of relationship issues that modern couples face. By using her open, affirming, and outside-of-the-box thinking, Dr. Dana is able to approach her work with couples by bringing both insights and tools that reflect the realities of today's complicated relationships. Dr. Dana features guests on her podcast that include a unique array of celebrities, CEOs, influencers, and everyday folks who are all working on navigating new conversations about how society views what goes into a successful relationship. And now, here's your host, Dr. Dana McNeil.
Hello, and welcome to the D-Spot podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dana McNeil, and we are talking about all things relationships. I have an ongoing series of introducing you to some amazing clinicians that I am lucky and fortunate and blessed to work with. One especially that I wanted you to meet is my clinical director, Sara Focht. She is smart, she's wise, she's all the things that I am not. She has a spreadsheet for everything, and I am a Post-it note person, so we are a perfect match for each other. Hello, Sara, welcome.
Hi.
She's been putting up with technology issues. I've been moving from closets to bathrooms, trying to make technology work today, and she's been very patient with me. Thank you, love. Your hair looks fabulous today.
Thank you.
All right, so what does a clinical director do? Tell anybody who's listening, what do you do?
Yeah, so my role here consists of, I still do my clinical work. So I still see couples and clients. I still do that on a day-to-day basis. And then I'm just here to be a support to all the clinicians. So I spend some of my day checking in, having meetings, doing trainings. We have our weekly Gottman training. So I help meet with you and facilitate those. Some of the other things that I'm doing in the background are a little bit more administrative. So I'm kind of checking people's schedules and making sure that everyone's breaks are in order, making sure that all of our client engagement rates are being calculated and sent out on a day-to-day basis. So there's kind of a lot going on that's running in the background.
Sara is the wind beneath our wings, float her calm. So we have the client that you can stay relevant and service the needs of the clinicians, because that's important. So I want to give you a chance to talk about something that's important to you today. So we kind of talked that you might share with us this idea of shared meaning, right? So in the Gottman world, that has a very specific connotation. Tell us about what it means to you.
Yes. So in the Gottman world, something that's really important in our relationship is to be able to have a balance of autonomy. So the things that form my identity, the things that I enjoy, my hobbies, my interests, my dreams. And then we also have to have a balance of the things that are important to our relationship. So all of this shared meaning. So what are our dreams for the future? What are our goals? What are we working towards as a couple? What are the things that make our relationship unique and important and special to us?
So if that feels overwhelming and there's a couple going, oh my God, Sara, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't even have time to like fold my underwear. Like, where do we start? Does it have to be daunting? Walk us through tiptoe us through it.
Yes, it definitely sounds daunting to talk about all of these life goals and our identities and the things that formulate our relationship and our personal identities. However, the way that we grow shared meaning is through a lot of small moments. So it's small conversations. It's small times where we spend a few hours in the day doing a hobby that we like, or we just sitting back on the couch after a long day and we're just dreaming together. And so it's built up in these really small ways that actually make it so much more manageable. It's just, we don't know that we're supposed to be having those kinds of conversations with our partners.
Why is it so important to couples to have shared meaning? What does it do for them?
It makes us feel like we're connected. It makes us feel like we are working towards something. And if we didn't have that shared part of our relationship, we would essentially just be like two people moving about the world at the same time. And so it doesn't allow us for that piece that makes me feel like we are together in this world, that we are on the same path, walking along side by side with one another.
Do you think it's hard for couples to recognize when they need them?
I think that it's one of the easiest things to drop off in a relationship. We start dating and we're so curious about one another. We're so excited about our relationship. We're doing everything we can to foster it. And then as we get more and more comfortable, our relationship starts to grow and evolve in different ways. We don't have time anymore. We don't know to prioritize that. My life gets busy. I have work, I have family, I have friends. I'm trying to navigate our relationship in general, make sure that that's going okay. I got to take care of the dog. I got to cook dinner. So there's all these things that get prioritized above the shared meaning aspect of our life, these rituals of connection, the way that we find our way back to each other. And it's so easily disrupted as our relationship grows and changes. So it's something that a lot of couples lose and are asking to get back, and they just don't even know where to start.
Yeah. And I kind of think about it as, okay, you grew up in a family that whether you identified it or not, or talked about it, you had rituals of connection. Some of them may not have been so positive, right? But they were still a ritual of connection. And so now that you're in the family of your choice versus the one that you were born into, what's your legacy as a couple going to be moving forward? Right. And so it can be that small thing that every time we visit someplace on vacation, we buy a Christmas ornament for it, and our tree is full of Christmas ornaments. Like those are meaningful. Those are like what build up your identity as a couple.
Yes. Who are we and who are we showing ourselves to be to the world, right? Is it the ornaments that we gather on our Christmas tree that remind us of all of the time that we had together, that remind us of something that we enjoy and appreciate and created meaning in, right? It's what are our day-to-day roles? What do we play in our lives? Like who is taking care of who when we're sick? What does that even look like? Do we have our family dinners together? Do we go on walks together? What are our rituals of connection every single day? And what do different things in life mean to us? What does it mean to even be a family? What does it mean to be parents or dog parents? What does it mean to just like come home and greet each other?
So I'm assuming that you're encouraging clients to do this because it helps strengthen the relationship and make it more resilient, right? How do these things work to build this identity, and how do they add to our resilience?
What they do is they make us feel like we're more of a team and we're in this together. And I think that a lot of times when couples will come into therapy, we don't feel like a team. We're not working well together. It feels like sometimes even in conflict, we're against each other. And so if we don't also have this running theme of we like spending time together, we know we're on the same path, or we at least know to have conversations if the path is shifting for us, that is going to build some confidence in our relationship. And it's going to kind of help balance it out so that, yeah, maybe there's some conflict going on, but those conflicts don't make me feel like we're not in this together, that we're not trying to work through this life that we've decided to share as a unit.
So if a couple comes into you and it's been a lot of high conflict for a lot of time, and here's Miss Sara that like, hey kids, I want you to like start talking about how we're going to like decorate the media room together so that it reflects both of our views of the world so that we have a connection around our home space. How do you get them to bridge that gap between like, don't look at me, I'm sitting on this side of the couch, don't cross that imaginary line, to wanting to do this?
Yeah, definitely. I talk a lot about that team aspect. So it's important to show them why this is important because, you talk about shared meaning and it sounds like, sunshine and rainbows. It sounds like, oh, we're great. We have goals and hobbies and shared interests and our lives function really well together. And that's not necessarily the case. That's not what it's about. It's about growing our shared identity, our relationship identity together. And we have to kind of bridge that gap. Our relationship needs to be balanced all throughout. We have our mix of being able to manage conflict. We have our shared meaning. We have the things that developed our friendship. We have our trust and our commitment. And we have these pieces that all have to work together in order to make the relationship feel strong. So the shared meaning component is one way that we can start doing that. And the nice thing is it's like one way that we can simply do it, right? It's not that I have to like try to regulate myself during a conflict. I don't have to like know how to reapproach you. I don't have to manage my defensiveness or not criticize you. It's, oh, wow, we can plan a date night together, or we can just have a discussion about what our day was like. And that's enough to grow and strengthen our relationship. And so it's the shared meaning pieces that make it feel more manageable to be working on our relationship, whereas maybe some of the other things we have to learn feel a little bit heavier.
Nice. I love this idea that it's bite size, and that as I keep putting a pea on my plate, it builds like a whole pile of peas, and it was built one at a time. Right. You do a really nice job with your clients, sort of helping normalize that they're not broken or something's not wrong with them if they don't have that. I sort of think of creating shared meaning as like the upper echelon, or like the pie in the sky for couples. And the reason that some couples are not there, it's not because they don't love each other or that they don't care. It's they're in survival mode, right? We're surviving COVID. We're teaching our kid school in the house at the kitchen table while we're running a job. We haven't we've had some betrayals, or we've had some things that feel like conflict that we haven't managed well. That is a byproduct of a couple that's really gotten through those levels. It's not that you should be there and you just don't know how, so you're a mess and get out of my office. It's, hey, there's reasons that you haven't got there, but what we've found is that couples who actively work those steps of getting through conflict and acting as if they hold each other in a positive perspective, and seeing the value in doing the things that you're asking, that they eventually can get there, that's the goal that you're helping them focus on.
Yeah, the Gottmans put that part of the relationship in the attic of their sound relationship house for a reason, because we have to build this strong foundation to be able to feel safe enough to even have some of these conversations. Like if I'm questioning our relationship, I don't think that I'm necessarily in a space to be dreaming about our futures together, right? Maybe there's other things that I can do to build some shared meaning, but it's up there for a reason, because we really have to be able to learn how to even talk to each other to have these kinds of conversations. I also joke with my couples that, like, if you are up here in the attic of the house and you're in la la land just dreaming it up together, but all the rest of your house is burning down, it's eventually going to catch up to you, right? So we have to make sure that we're also still building that trust and commitment and communication and some of that like foundational friendship, so that we can work our way up towards having this like dream for our relationship.
So what you're saying is some couples have conflict and they keep walking around it, going to the fun parts, and they're not like acknowledging that, like, oh, that part's broken. Anyways, moving on. Let's get those Christmas ornaments for the tree.
Absolutely. Because those feel like better conversations. They feel more manageable.
How do they identify if nobody's talking about the fact that we're ignoring something, that we're just hanging out in the attic? How do you get them to start recognizing that there's some things we need to talk about?
Part of it is using the metaphor of the sound relationship house and talking about how we have to have some of those difficult conversations, and we have to learn how to have those so that we can then also enjoy the full reality of the relationship, right? Not just this small piece where, like, yes, we can dream together and we can have fun together. That's fantastic. The rest of my experience of the relationship is difficult, and it's full of suffering and pain, and I don't have a voice in it. And so that little fuse is going to burn out at some point, because it's not a balanced relationship. And so kind of talking about how we can make all those parts work together, and even how, if they're having these dreaming, shared meaning conversations, they've got some strengths there. They've got some skills. They have the ability to have a deep connection. They have the ability to talk about something. And maybe we can take some of those pieces and translate them into a conflict conversation.
So what do you see as the role of the couples therapist in helping clients navigate those needed, difficult conversations?
I think some of the great things about the Gottman tools are that a lot of them are pulling us in. So even if I, as the therapist, miss the mark a little bit and I'm like, oh, things are feeling good, let's talk a little more about shared meaning, I bet you if they haven't been talking about something, it's in there. And then we're going to kind of make a note of that. Oh, okay. So we have a really big difference in what we think it means to be a family or have a home together. That's fantastic. Let's take that as a learning opportunity and let's isolate it and have a conversation about it. And again, taking it in these pieces that make it feel manageable for them to have a conversation that maybe they've been avoiding for a really long time. So I think the therapist's role is to support the couple couple in identifying what are some of these areas that they're struggling to or not talking about, and then supporting them in having those conversations in a safe space.
What do you think some of the worries are for couples that have thought, hey, everything that Sara says, that's like me and my boo.
Mm-hmm.
How do they get past this idea that that means that there must be something wrong if they need to come see you?
There doesn't always have to be anything wrong to come to couples therapy. A big part of the reason we have couples therapy is because no one actually teaches us how to be in a relationship. We just enter them, they exist, they start to crumble, and we're scrambling to pick up the pieces. And a lot of times people will wait to come to therapy until they're questioning their relationship, but that it doesn't have to be this scary thing. It's a space where I can support you. I can teach you the tools that you didn't have. And there is hope and there's value in those abilities to learn how to communicate with each other. And so even if we are hearing me speak today about some of these pieces that are really important and they don't exist in a relationship, well, then great. I'm glad that you know that now. And that's what coming to couples therapy looks like is, hey, I assessed what's going on in a relationship because you allowed me to become part of your world. Here's what I'm noticing. Here's what's working. Here's what's not working. Let's teach you how to make those things function better for you so that you can have a relationship that feels like it's worth being in, that feels strong and stable and connected.
So what you're saying is the myth of couples therapy is not that you're going to choose one side and go like, you're the one not at fault. You're the one that screwed up and needs to fix everything.
Oh yeah, we're all in this together. All three of us or four of us or five of us in the room.
Okay. I think that's good for them to hear that your job, as you see it, is to sort of mediate and navigate and help everybody have their perspective heard and their subjective reality validated.
I think
give them tools.
Yeah, something that couples therapists say a lot is that like we're here for the relationship, right? As if it's another entity in the room. And so it doesn't necessarily matter who's right or wrong, because who's to say, right? Like we just each have our own perspectives. We just each have our own backgrounds and we saw things differently. We have different needs. We have different viewpoints, and that's okay. We're here to find a way that it can work better together. And we're going to do that in a healthy way.
And what happens if there's a couple that's like, oh, Sara, pressure from my therapist to like stay married or stay together?
The therapist role should never be to tell someone whether or not they should or shouldn't stay in their relationship. The goal is always to just teach people how to be in a relationship, how to have conversations. Sometimes that's a tough conversation that our relationship's over and that I don't want to be in it anymore, and that's okay. And that this should be a safe space for them to be able to explore that, right? You don't have to come into your first session even knowing where you're at with your relationship. You don't have to make that decision yet, because it would still only be based off of what you've tried before, and that wasn't working. So let's take a look at what we can do and then make your decision based off of that, whether it ends up being to stay or to part ways, right? That I'm here to support you in figuring out what your relationship looks like for you. And yeah, for some couples, that means that they get to have this like strong, healthy relationship that feels great for them. And others just get to take away the clarity that they made the best decision that they could, and that they put in the effort that they wanted to, and that they're proud of themselves for that, right? It's a tough decision nonetheless, but that they can at least come from a place of clarity rather than a place of like crisis and chaos and fear.
Wise. You're so wise. Okay. I have 2 questions for you, because I know you got clients to see and people to sort. So what to you, and this is just your definition, I'm putting you on the spot, what does commitment mean to you?
I think commitment is continuing to show up in your relationship, whether that's your romantic partner or your friendships or your family. It's that willingness to continue to show up. It doesn't mean that it's not hard, and it doesn't mean that I want to avoid it sometimes, but it means that I'm going to be here and I'm going to try to figure it out until maybe I can't anymore, right? It's about, I think commitment's all about like the journey and wherever that leads us to.
And giving yourself some grace. I like that. Okay. So if there's somebody that's listening and they're like, I'm almost there, I I don't know. What words of wisdom do you have for somebody who's on the fence about coming to couples therapy?
Mm-hmm. I think that, again, it's important to know that, one, your therapist isn't going to tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing.
We don't give a report card.
Yes, I'm not grading you. I'm just here with you on this journey. And also to know that no one was supposed to know any of this stuff, right? Like, I had to go out, get a degree, collect a lot of hours, like get a lot of practice in to even learn some of these tools that I'm sharing with people, right? I wasn't taught these things either until I sought them out. I sought them out in a different way, but the therapy gets to be your space to learn and grow and to have a supportive environment to be in, because your friend's advice is not always welcomed, wanted, or needed, right? Have a neutral party support you guys in figuring out what makes sense for your lives.
Because your family and friends are biased. They can't help it. They have an opinion. They're doing it from a loving place, but nevertheless, it's an opinion. And so your suggestion is come to a curator of knowledge. Maybe you could spend the next 4 years searching it out, Googling it, Wikipediaing it, but like, why beat your head against the wall for 6 years? Come learn something, see if there's a good fit for you, if you resonate with this person, and if, like you, they feel comfortable with you to like be vulnerable and share these things that are on their heart in a safe space.
Yeah. And someone who can have the luxury of looking from the outside, right? That, like, I'm not as emotionally invested in talking about who does the dishes as you are. So I can have the luxury of being outside the relationship and supporting you and figuring that out in a way that actually gets our needs met.
Beautiful. Perfect. All right, Levy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You are wise, and you are lucky to be so wise at such a young age. I'm always so impressed with who you are and how you carry yourself. So thanks for giving me some of your time.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate getting to be part of this experience with you as you develop your podcast and continue to develop the practice. I appreciate that.
All right, Levy. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
This has been the D-Spot Podcast with Dr. Dana McNeil. To learn more about Dr. Dana's practice, simply visit us at www.danamcneil.com.